first of all, how much does Huawei's executive arrest matter in these trade talks? Because we heard some rather conciliatory comments coming from China's Commerce Department about the meetings happening on opening up the markets and on intellectual property.
For the two countries to come to a deal, Contessa, you need an environment, a climate of mutual trust, and the Huawei arrest certainly does not build a greater sense of trust between the two countries. I'm not saying it's going to lead to a disintegration of any prospects of coming together, but it's not a plus.
We heard Bob Pisani sort of illustrating the decline in the markets when Peter Navarro mentioned, hey, look, if we can't get done what we need done in the 30 days, then the tariffs will go into effect. It's sort of a hardline pro-tariff stance that we've heard before. Does there need to be more consistent messaging from the administration on trade and what the goals are?
Well, they take a big step toward consistent messaging if they put a muzzle on Peter Navarro, that's for sure. He doesn't contribute in any way whatsoever to a constructive environment between the two countries. And, it'd be good to hear a more balanced approach from the Trump administration, whether it's from the Treasury Secretary or even the very silent Robert Lighthizer.
Steve, when's the last time something like this Huawei arrest happened? I can't recall it. To me, it seems like if China arrested Qualcomm's CFO, over something and we didn't hear about it for days. I'm trying to get into context the seriousness and the likely reverberations in how trade happens between the two countries. Well,
I think, John, the best of my memory, the last time there was this type of incarceration had to do with the executives from Rio Tinto from Australia, which was a totally different context. But, this is, and that was instigated by the Chinese. This is a very unusual development occurring at an extremely delicate time between the two countries.
But also, Huawei has been under some scrutiny from the United States
for a long time.
So it's not like this is coming out of the blue. And the other thing is, don't forget, we haven't spent a lot of time talking about it, but in this massive Marriott hack, one of the things that Reuters has reported is that there is some suspicion now that the hack was done by people linked to the Chinese government. When you're talking about building a culture of trust, a headline like that certainly doesn't contribute to trust.
Well, I think that's one of the problems with this whole issue, is that we sort of have dueling anecdotes about this person did that to whom and whatever, and I know a CEO who did this to that. These charges are really serious, and I think the thing that's really lacking in them, and you can get this in reading Robert Lighthizer's 182-page Section 301 report, is that the dispute is really lacking in scientific metrics for us to be able to judge the veracity of the claims. I've read his report many times. I've taught a class in it in my course at Yale, and it's a very flawed report with very shaky evidence. And then you get on shows like this, people come on and say, well, I know a CEO who was hacked or somebody who was forced to transfer their technology, and I can promise you I can come up with anecdotes on the other side that will say exactly the opposite. There's no absolute truth, but we need to be more scientific and careful in examining these allegations.
What will you be looking for as an indication that the United States and China are ready to move forward on getting some of these trade differences resolved?
Well, I think you can break this dispute down into two issues: trade and the existential threat over intellectual property. The Chinese, by the reports after the December 1st dinner party, are willing to deal on trade. But I think they're probably very unwilling to deal on the intellectual property, technology transfer issue, and that's where Lighthizer has really dug his heels in. So it's like two ships passing in the night.
And
one is dealing on one issue
that corporate America cares about the most too, isn't it?
Well, I think corporate America cares about really having a stable and predictable relationship with China. Wherever the chips fall, they want to move forward and deal with clarity and an understanding of what the rules of the game are, and they don't know that right now because we're on again, off again on tariffs, on this threat or that threat, and who's saying what, and and someone like Peter Navarro lobs in another, bomb. That's not helpful to corporate America.
So, but your point is that that you think the Chinese are ready to play on trade imbalances in 90 days, let's say.
They always are, Carl. Whenever, I've studied this thing for a long time. Yeah. Whenever there's a trade dispute with China, they always take out the wallet and they say, well, buy some airplanes or soybeans or whatever. And they're doing that again. But, the big existential issue.
They will not bend?
I think they'll make some moves, but not in the way that Lighthizer is looking for if you take his Section 301 report literally. They want China to back off on things like Made in China 2025, their plans to be a globally powerful in artificial intelligence. This is part of China's future economic growth strategy, and I don't think they're going to give ground on that.